right, guys, what's up? This is Justin Kahn, and you are listening or watching another episode of Fractal Radio. So today my guest is Max Fu, who's a co-founder of Nyan Heroes, one of the cutest games on Fractal and on the Solana blockchain. So Max, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks so very much for having me, Justin. Glad to be here.
Awesome. I was saying this earlier before we started, but your hair is insane. It's amazing. I want to get that color.
Yeah, and I said the same thing about your hair as well. I was like, I think it's like a hair party right now.
Yeah, exactly. This is amazing. So your game, Nyan Heroes, was like one of the first ones I learned about when I was really diving into blockchain games on Solana. Like, tell me about what it is and like what's the concept behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I love the fact that you said it was one of the cutest games that you've come across. And I think, we do have a really interesting IP where we have, it is based on cute little cats that we're calling Nyans, but they're piloting these really epic looking mech guardian robots. So it's kind of like a weird juxtaposition between the cute side and the cool side, which is really interesting. But from a high level, what our game is, Nyan Heroes, essentially it's a third-person battle royale shooter. So obviously, if you're familiar with games such as Fortnite or PUBG, that's roughly the kind of camera angle that we're going for. But we're integrating elements of classes. So games like Apex Legends that have a class-based character selection system is what we're implementing as well. So it's kind of like a mishmash between those genres, and obviously we're building on Solana, and the quality that we're going for is like a AAA quality kind of game. So we would love to see our game on platforms like Twitch and YouTube gaming and Facebook gaming right up against these other titles from Respawn like Apex Legends or Overwatch or Valorant, and for the gaming community to essentially not be able to distinguish like a difference in terms of like the output of the quality of the gameplay. So that's what we're really targeting at the moment.
That's awesome. Your game reminds me of, did you ever play this? I mean, probably a lot older than you. I was going to say I'm a little older than you, but I think I'm probably a lot older than you. But I used to play this game when I was a kid called Mech Warrior.
Okay.
Yeah, did you ever hear about that game?
Like, I've heard about the game, and I've played a number of mech-related games myself. But like what?
Yeah, the game was.
I mean,
it was like a shooter basically, but it was you were doing missions in these mechs, and there was like a multiplayer version. I think it was LAN at the time. There wasn't like that much on the. It wasn't like
I remember LAN.
Yeah,
days.
it was LAN days. Right? So like before that, kind of like everything was internet gaming, and. It was pretty cool because you'd like be in these mechs and there were different classes. It actually would lend itself to like a blockchain game really well because there was all these classes and loot and stuff that you collected on the missions. Like you earned all these items and you could like upgrade your mechs and upgrade the guns and all these different components of your mech. And it was just like a pretty fun game. Like it was a really cool, it was a very immersive world, and then you guys are doing like the Nyan version of that.
Yeah, well, it's weird because me and my co-founder Wenji, we both really love this old school anime series called Neon Genesis Evangelion, and there's these giant mechs and these tiny little human pilots. And we kind of took that idea and we just swapped out the human pilots with cat pilots.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this mishmash, and at the same time, like I personally am a big fan of mechs. I didn't play Mech Warrior, but I was a huge fan of Titanfall and Titanfall 2. And so, there was this whole aspect of mech shooting that was really, I don't know, it was like really enticing to me. It was just kind of the idea of getting into a giant robot. Like as a kid, I always dreamed of like, why aren't there these mechs that I can just like jump into myself and pilot around, right? Like it just seems like such a cool idea. So, we can't have it in reality, so we'll make a game out of it.
I love it. That kind of lore and world lends itself a lot to the idea of like kind of upgradability and, having this like, you have this robot character that you can do a lot with. I mean, I think it's really a good choice for kind of like an NFT game, So
absolutely.
Can you tell me how you and your co-founder Wenji came together and like built this team and started this company?
Yeah, it was actually it's a pretty roundabout story, like how the whole idea came about in the first place. Like it actually has nothing to do with gaming at all initially. So we run like a digital media production studio, and obviously we've built up a number of social communities online. She's herself is an influencer with 20 million followers, and we were kind of at a point in our lives where we were really like figuring out like what we wanted to do. We didn't want to retire because we were, we wanted to still like achieve things and provide value to the greater sort of world. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was actually give back by creating some cat shelters. So we were looking around Singapore for like ways to do this. We wanted to create a shelter for cats and then actually build a like a cat cafe next to the shelter. So it was kind of like on one hand you'd rehabilitate the cats, and then you'd transition them into the cat cafe, where you could have people then visit the cafe, bond with the cats over several visits, and then if they liked a cat, they could then just take it home for free. That was something that we really were passionate about doing. It's kind of like completely not related at all.
It's like a cat rehab adoption pipeline.
Correct.
Like cat rehab cafe adoption. And
yes, it was like a perfect like sort of flow chart, right? And because so if you haven't gathered, like we're massive cat people. We have three cats of our own at home, and we always we just talk about cats all the time. It's pretty odd, but around that time that we were discussing these creating like cat shelters and giving back, it was also around the time when I guess like blockchain gaming in the form of Axie Infinity started taking off. And we had a bunch of friends in Australia that actually started one of the larger guilds in the space called Avocado Guild. So they hit up Wenji for some early marketing strategies for their project. And that's when we kind of got more exposed into the blockchain gaming side of things. It was all around the same time. So then, things just happened. We started deep diving into this rabbit hole ourselves. Of Web3 gaming. I personally was invested in crypto for the last 5 years, but mostly in various layer ones, scaling solutions. I did get involved in a little bit of DeFi summer, but had largely sort of been oblivious to the Web3 gaming developments until we sort of got introduced by our friends at Avocado. So we started looking into it, and then we thought, wow, this is just such like an amazing space. We love building digital communities through our existing, company, and we're passionate about Web3 and gaming, and we're also passionate about saving cats. So it all just kind of came together into this one giant project, where now like we're in a really like amazing, fortunate situation where we've got such an amazing community, and we've been able to really make a much larger impact than what we had originally planned. Via our partnerships with Best Friends Animal Society in the States. We've currently donated $250,000 to their cause, and we'll continue to donate more. And our tagline is like, for every Nyan that gets minted in our ecosystem, we'll be able to donate a portion of those funds to saving a real life cat. So that's something that's like the long story of how it all came about.
Amazing. So you've done a Genesis mint of Nyans, and they're like you kind of have some really cute art and this like lore and created this world. What's the process of turning that into a game and bringing that that game to market?
Yeah, I mean, so the Genesis launch, we were really happy with, and obviously we have our Genesis Nyans that our community is currently holding, and they're currently staking them. They're sending them on expeditions and getting some CTNP, some catnip in return. But really, like the best way to think about our Genesis NFTs is a mint pass for all of the access features for our game that will eventually be required. So, for example, holders of our Genesis NFTs, they will actually receive 2 Guardian NFTs, which are our mechs, the playable characters. So one of which will be dropping in the next month or two. Another one will be dropping in 6 to 9 months. So those are actually like the playable characters. And that is where the value of our Genesis NFTs lies, is in a mint pass. On top of that, they get pre-access to land sales. They'll get early access to beta. We're actually in the process of structuring ideas around a Nyan DAO, which is going to be gated by ownership of our Genesis NFTs. So yeah, there's a ton of ideas that we're planning around our Genesis NFT drops, and essentially they're the gateway into the assets for our in-game assets. So our Guardians are the characters, the playable characters that you really want to use in game. And so we've shown a few leaks of our Guardians on our socials and whatnot, so people have a rough idea of what they're going to look like. But soon we will have like a full algorithmic NFT image generation rotation leak, so people will be able to see all the different classes and all the different accessories that we have planned. And all I can say is, seeing it from our end on the dev side, it looks really, really amazing. So I think people will be excited.
Awesome. And how was it like figuring out how to create a game? Because you guys weren't from the gaming world, right? So like, what's the process been like to dive in and like actually build a game?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been an interesting journey. It's been a really exciting journey. I personally love learning about new things all the time. So deep diving into the game development industry was something that was really interesting. I read a ton of books about it as well. But really, what our approach was to get started with the community building side of things, create an overall design and architecture around the game. But then, we really were able to leverage our initial, fundraising rounds with our seed investors plus our NFT sales to then, I guess, go out and hire our AAA dev team, which we currently have in place. So, yeah, really excited. We shared an announcement a week or two ago about our 25-member strong team at the moment, of which our dev team, they literally, they're so amazing. I can't speak more highly of them, but we have a bunch of leads in place from various AAA studios. They all have anywhere between 8 to 20 years of experience in the game development industry, all with multiple ship titles. And they're great people, really amazing and talented. So that's kind of been the approach. It's where I'm not personally experienced in the AAA development pipeline, but that's fine. I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. We have a ton of amazing talent that's working on the gaming side of things now, and I'm learning a lot. I'm learning so much from them, and hopefully, when we speak to them as well, like, you'll find that they're learning a good amount from me about like the Web3 side of things.
Love that. So when can people expect? The Web3 way is like kind of build in public and you're like releasing things over time, but like what's the next, kind of playable release or like interactive release that you guys are going to do?
Yeah, so we have a cinematic trailer coming out in about 4 to 6 weeks, cool, leading up into our IDO, which will be really exciting. As well as that, we will be leaking some prototype gameplay footage alongside the cinematic trailer, so keep an eye out for that as well. In the next 4 to 5 months, we will be launching a vertical slice prototype demo that people can actually get their hands on and play. So it'll be vertical slice in the sense that it's not going to be the full Battle Royale map, but it'll just be like a small playable segment. But it'll give people a really good idea of what the gameplay is going to be like, the mechanics, the the systems, the abilities, the weapons that we have, all the kind of mobility that we're planning around it. So we want to have like a highly mobile gameplay with things like sliding, wall running, wall jumping, things like that.
Yeah. And
so that's in the next 4 to 5 months, and then the full gameplay alpha is slated to release at the end of 2022. So those are some of the broad milestones that we have in place.
I love it. You guys have a plan. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to come in with a plan.
So
hopefully it comes together.
Well, everything, startups always have hiccups, but I feel like, if you have smart people around the table, which, you guys do, you're going to figure it out, So tell me about, like, what's the long-term vision? Like, where do you think this goes? So you release your game, people are playing it, they love it. Like, there's an economy that's, kind of working. Maybe you could tell me actually a little bit about how you envision that, economic portion is going to work.
Yeah, so we've been thinking a lot about the economic design behind our game. So obviously, we say that we're a game-first project, focusing on the gameplay, the game loops, the game mechanics, and making sure that it's fundamentally like a great game and enjoyable to play. But at the same time, because it is a blockchain game, we need to ensure that the underlying tokenomics and economy design is sustainable for the long term. And that was one of the things that was a big issue for us initially when we were researching into the space, because there are a lot of current economies that look potentially unsustainable in terms of like I mean, I don't want to mention
I know
any names.
I get what you're saying. Like there's some that require. It seems like it may require continual inflation of asset prices for it to be attractive,
Yes.
an attractive proposition to the existing players. And like my hypothesis has always been that like that's not necessary to create a game that people like to play and an economic portion of that game that's sustainable.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I completely agree. And so it's either reliant on inflation of assets, or it's also reliant on onboarding more and more daily active users to support the existing farmers in the space to provide ongoing like upside pressure for the token that is the value accrual token. So that was something that we were seeing in the space a lot, and that is something that we hope that we have designed for. So essentially, our economy has two sides of the coin. So on one side is the traditional, what you think of as the play to earn economy, where you have your players or your guilds that are coming on board. Their main purpose, I guess, per se, is financially driven. But obviously, if they can enjoy the game, that's an added benefit. But these players are here to earn from the game ecosystem. And so they perform tasks, they perform actions, they compete, and when they do well, they earn a portion of the rewards. And generally speaking, the behavior of these players is that they then sell these tokens on the open market and get profit. So that is, the play to earn economy. And obviously it's great for marketing, but the question remains like how is that sustainable if that is the only demographic that you're targeting, and where does the money come from that they're getting, right? Like it has to be coming from somewhere. So our answer to where that money is coming from, is the other side of the coin that we're targeting, which is our other demographic, which is actually the traditional gaming demographic. You could call them traditional gaming or Web 2 gaming, which is essentially gamers that play games for one reason and one reason only, and that is that they fundamentally enjoy the game. They don't really care about the economy behind the game or anything else related to that, but they just enjoy the game. They like the game design, the game loops, they're sticky, they're addictive, they're fun, there's a really great immersive lore and storyline behind it, and there's a great community behind it, and it's a way for people to, I guess, escape from daily life, unwind, relax, have fun, right? That's what gaming is fundamentally about. And so that is why we're creating the kind of game that we're creating. That's kind of why we're trying to push for quality. Is we're trying to create this game that people fundamentally enjoy, and they're willing to. It's a free-to-play game, just like the standard traditional like free-to-play freemium markets that are out there in most traditional games these days. But when these players from developed countries, whether they're Gen Zs, millennials, they're playing the game, they're enjoying it, they're spending hundreds of thousands of hours on the game, they're then more than happy to then spend some level of their disposable income on various in-game assets, whether they're skins, battle passes, loot boxes, things like that. They're actually functionally useless in-game, right? Like the skins don't do anything, but it's because they're invested in the game ecosystem and they love the game so much that they're happy to spend money on it. And these players spend without really any expectation of financial return. And that is the other side of the coin that we're targeting. And essentially, these players will provide real revenue into our in-game ecosystem, our in-game treasury, and then we're going to be able to utilize that treasury to subsidize at least a portion of the earning capacity for our play-to-earn players on the other side of the coin. And so that's essentially like a high-level overview of how we're structuring our economy and how we intend on that economy being sustainable for the long term. So we're not reliant on, you know, continually inflating our assets, continually onboarding new players. We actually have, you know, two player bases, one of which is supporting the other.
Yeah.
And it's a great sort of way of, you know, great sort of wealth redistribution, if you will. It's part of the whole Web3 movement, where you have these players that are privileged in very privileged situations that are able to enjoy a game, spend money on the game, and at the same time support, you know, other players in these developing countries that, you know, are trying to earn a living. And I think it's a really great implementation of that.
So let me ask you a question, if I could. I'm like, so the, you know, I get that. So you have these two parties. You can see you have like these two different groups of people, like the kind of play to earn players who are doing it more as a job, and the people who are playing for fun. And effectively, compared to Web 2 or like a traditional gaming studio or gaming, you know, a traditional game, you're basically substituting like in a traditional game, you would be the game company is taking the place of the play to earn players and is
Correct.
basically selling stuff, cosmetic skins, you know, in-game things to the player base. Like, what's the point of having play to earn players at all? You know, like people who are, you know, who are kind of like fully just engaged, doing it only as like a job.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think part of it is the ethos behind Web3 gaming itself is that, you know, the idea is to, I guess, you know, decentralize ownership of assets across your actual community rather than having the developers, like, you know, essentially take all the profits for themselves.
Yeah.
Essentially becoming this very financially driven, microtransaction driven company. It can get quite sort of insidious. But we're able to, you know, decentralize and democratize ownership of not only our in-game assets, but also our in-game revenue to our early community, our supporters, our adopters. So that's, you know, one thing. But at the same time, I think, you know, these play-to-earn players and guilds, they contribute to another more important aspect of the game, and that is, you know, forming a really robust player base and in sort of creating this idea of, you know, popularity within a game ecosystem. And at the end of the day, for a traditional like PvP game that's highly competitive, players want to know that if they are, you know, top 100 in a game, for example, they want to also know that that game is really popular. They don't want to be ranked 100 in a game that only has, you know, 1,000 players. That's not really that impressive. There's not a whole lot of incentive. But, you know, when you look at games like League of Legends, it's really impressive, right, to be ranked in that top, you know, challenger, grandmaster kind of category, because there's so many players playing the game. And that's where these guilds and earning players can come into play as well, because obviously we're going to be tying earning incentives with skill level too. So they're going to be wanting to skill up and level up and grind and, you know, get better at the game. So they're providing, you know, player base and competition. And then for, you know, traditional gamers who are, you know, they want to get good, they want to become highly skilled, they want to be impressive, they want to rank up in our ranked mode, that they'll be able to, and they'll also be rewarded intrinsically knowing that they were able to get, you know, top rank amongst, you know, a game that has, you know, millions of daily active users.
Gotcha. Yeah, one of the things I'm most excited about with Web3 gaming, I think, is actually when the blending of like fun incentives, like people playing for that first category you're talking about, or people playing for entertainment, to unwind, et cetera, and then economic incentives. You know, I think there will be a lot of people actually in the middle, in the end of it, who are like playing for fun, but then they realize like the stuff that they bought or earned is worth something. They can like resell it. They can trade it to someone else. So, you know, like, because I feel like when I was playing games 20 years ago, you know, a lot, like 50 hours a week, I was a lot of these games, I was like earning, you know, I was in World of Warcraft and making all this gold or whatever. And, you know, the idea that I could sell it would have been really attractive to me. I probably wasn't primarily playing because I wanted to earn money, but like there was like that additional aspect of engagement that, you know, that I could, that I think would have been very powerful as an incentive to me. So I think like I think games will like start to have a lot of players who are like somewhere between full play to earn, like I'm earning, this is my job, and I'm doing this entirely for fun, and I think that's
Absolutely.
yeah, that's the future.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like we have these categories, but I absolutely agree that I think there'll be players from the earning category that find, hey, actually this is like a damn good, enjoyable game. Like I love playing it, and they start to sort of go towards the other direction. And then there'll be players from the traditional gaming that they love playing the game, but then they suddenly realize, hey, I can actually make a bit of money on the side here as well, and they get excited too. So I definitely think it can come from both directions. And I actually find it interesting because with platforms like what you created with Twitch, it's actually a very similar structure, right? Because a lot of these gamers that have now done really well on Twitch, like when they started out, they didn't start out with a plan to become successful or make money and get rich or whatever. They love gaming. They just wanted to play. They wanted to share their gaming experience with their friends. Initially they're just streaming with like friends, probably like 5 to 10 concurrent viewers, right?
Yeah.
But then from their joy and from the passion that they show, they're able to build a community around it, and then they suddenly realize, hey, actually, I can make a living for myself. So it's interesting, right? Because it's a very similar kind of mindset and progression, which is I always found interesting.
Exactly, that's exactly right. So, what does the future look like? You launch this game, people are starting to play it. Like, where do you think this goes?
Honestly, I guess I'm not sure where the future lies, but we do have a pretty ambitious roadmap. So it's like it's a 4-year roadmap, and year one is simply getting the battle royale gameplay, the PvP aspect out. But we have a bunch of other milestones that we want to achieve as well. So beyond PvP, we want to implement like a PvE component, which is more like an MMO, an open world explorative gameplay where people can fight AI controlled enemies. They can battle, they can get loot, they can earn, they can form guilds, they can go on raids. All that stuff is in our roadmap. And that, I think, is really where the player-based economy will shine, because in an open world, players can freely transact with each other, create their own, stores of value, and create their own economies. So that is something that we're planning after the battle royale gets released. And then beyond that, we start thinking about ecosystems in traditional gaming, such as like Minecraft or Fortnite, where they're creating frameworks for SDKs for user-generated content, where the community then begins to slowly take ownership of the direction of the game development. They can start creating their own maps, their own game modes. And obviously, the Web3 version of that is, projects like Sandbox and Decentraland, where they're doing something very similar. But, that is also on the roadmap for us as well. That's kind of like year 3, year 4. So, I don't really know where things are going to take us. I don't really know where we're going to land, but I do know that we have an ambitious roadmap. We're really excited to be building in this space. It's a very nascent industry at the moment, I still believe, and there's still so much potential to explore. And just excited about we'll obviously take things as they come, but just excited overall.
I love that. I feel like you guys are a great example of just like taking things as they come, building based in response to the community, and like kind of letting your ideas expand as you get out there. And so I'm excited for what happens for the future.
You guys too. I think I see that with your project as well.
Thank you.
Very like community focused and community driven. Yeah, I like the flexibility and the adaptability that you've shown so far.
Thanks. Well, Max, where can people find out more about Nyan Heroes and join the community?
Yeah, so you can find us on our Twitter. It's our handle is essentially Nyan Heroes, one word, and we also have a website which is nyanheroes.com, and that has links to all of our socials, our Discord, our Telegram, our Medium. It has a link to our team page. It also will eventually have a join us button, because we obviously want to expand our team as well. So if there's anyone interested, they have skills that that they think would be useful for our project, please send us an email. I'd be happy to go through your applications. And I'm just excited for people to learn more about our project.
Incredible. All right, Max, thanks for joining me.
Thanks a lot, Justin.